fixed it.
Boom, we fixed it, dude. We're live, baby. We're live.
And let me just make a quick, what is it called? Quick text.
Ooh, I like that light on your face. That was a really good light on your face, dude.
How do I do that?
Pull up a notepad. Because the white of the notepad is going to light up your face with your screen. And watch. Would I do it? Boom. I actually didn't really make a difference. Because I already have a white light on me. Oh, dude, you should get one. You should get a white light for your face when you're streaming.
Uh,
You got those blue light glasses, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Should I put them on or what?
While you
Serial
stream,
gamer?
if you stream with a yeah, put them on, dude. Put them on.
Want to put on the glasses?
I'll put on those glasses.
Fuck me, okay. Oh, I need to clean them first though. Hold on a second.
You do you.
Boom. Dude, now I feel like I increased my DPS already.
With the glasses, you look great, dude.
Okay.
Wait, my chat's not working. Test.
I'm just gonna mute my myself for a second.
Oh, it should be working now. Test again. Test again. Should be working now. Z, can you test again? Oh, there we go. Looks good, looks good. Okay. So, I'm just going to get off of WoW since we're doing podcast now. I have the notes that we talked about, and I also pulled up Wowhead because there's some information on there that I think we need to talk about as well. So why don't we start with the first question after we do a little bit of introductions, as this is going up on YouTube, right?
Yep.
Both of our channels, I guess. Your side for yours and mine side for, well, mine. So, hello everybody. Welcome to the Elemental Shaman first podcast with Barokoshama on NA side and Neru's / Petko / what do you go by? Padko?
Petko, dude.
Padko on EU. The legendary Petkosham, top Elemental Shaman in the world right now, but also top IO, right? You're like the highest with your team, which is kind of crazy. Big grats to you on that, man.
Thank you.
A lot of hard work has gone into that, I'm sure.
Definitely.
A lot of hours. So now that we've gotten introductions out of the way, why don't we talk about our first question? And we're going to be opening up questions after we've kind of like gone through our list. We're going to be opening up questions to chat. So if you guys have questions or want to think about them, definitely type them up now or like figure out what you want to say now. And then we'll go through those questions afterwards. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, at least on NA side, because there's not a lot of NA shamans. Definitely not a lot of NA shamans that are like, I don't want to say notable, but like kind of visible. You know what I mean?
Like, standing out, you mean?
Standing out, yeah.
Yeah.
I know there's like really good resto shaman on our side over here in original, and we have a pretty notable enhanced shaman that plays and doesn't back down from that, which is Solani. So we don't. I guess I feel the elemental side, but like I wish there was more of us on NA because there's so many on EU and Korean and Asian servers.
The thing is, there are many in EU, but like most of them are not noticeable just because they don't push or just because they don't take it into high key groups. But that's something that I just want to say off the bat. Like, no matter what class you play, you should be always choosing to pick up the person, not the class itself, right?
Exactly.
So it doesn't really matter what you play. You can play the most stupid class in the world. Like, you can play Feral Druid and you can still be the blaster that everybody knows that.
Feral Druid actually does a crap ton of damage, but
Yeah.
they're super hard to play and they're not very popular. Like, they're not popular because everybody just picks meta classes, right? And if you're not playing a meta class,
I mean,
Pugging's not going to take you.
from my standpoint, I would understand why people don't want to take the meta classes, because they're not sure if the player is actually credible of his skill or her skills, and they just want to pick something easy like a rogue or a DH. And in general, if you have played stuff like this in the past, you just know that rogue and DH is kind of a optimal classes to pick up for like pugging. And in general, if you don't play those classes, you're gonna find a hard time getting into the pug keys.
True.
And if you get into the pug keys, if you don't perform good, and even in the first key, they will never invite you again. So if you don't have your damage up to date, if you don't have the right combination of like Azurites and like essences, if you get into the pug key, you will most likely, if you do negative DPS, they will not invite you again. That's something that most of the people do, and that's how the pug life works, and that's how the pug people think, right?
Yeah.
So if you're crap, they will not get you in.
And I'm very surprised that people don't take Mythic Plus kind of more like a team effort like they do Mythic rating or Heroic rating, right? It's just like you have to rely on 19 other people to perform and kill those bosses, especially if it's progression. But progression is the same thing in Mythic Plus. Like, you work with 4 other people to push that high score, to push those higher keys. It's better to play with the consistent group than it is to constantly pug. Even though in the short run it may not work out and you're not going to time all the keys like right away, if you continuously play as a group, you're going to find success later on. I don't think a lot of people realize that or have the patience or time to invest into it.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you how you all started. First of all, myself and Rats, we have been playing together since season 1 beginning. And we started as a pugs ourselves. Like, we haven't played much of Legion Mythic Plus. I would say myself and Rats, we started to play End Legion, pre-patch of BFA when it comes down to Mythic Plus. So we were like unaware what to do, right? But we just liked playing together, and we just stuck playing together. I was playing Loki, he was playing Blood Decay, right? So that's very off-meta classes, right?
Yeah.
So what we focused on is just keeping the connection going and just keeping the friendship. Therefore, we're like generating people to come play with us. And eventually, we kind of fell in love with Mythic Plus. So we wanted to continue playing together, but at the same time, we wanted to be competitive. So we had to choose people that are good at the game, get them into our friend list, and then add them eventually in our groups, not their groups, like our groups. And we decide what keys we do. We control pretty much the people that we played with, and that's pretty much how it all started. Like, none of us were good at the game. We just played together from 0. Like, we had like 500 score. People were not inviting us even for Mythic 0.
That's insane. Wow.
And we started to grind from 0, like together, me and him, from 0.
0
like,
to hero story. That's a good rags to riches story you got. Go ahead.
From the mud to the
mud
top.
To the top of the golden pyramid of Dazara
Like,
lore.
nobody wanted to take Lock. And I wasn't Destro, and I wasn't Demo. I was Affliction Lock, even worse, right? So it was very, very extremely hard for me to get into a pugs. Like, I was declined pretty much on every key. Every 10, every 5, even Mythic 0, as I said, with Rads.
Wow.
But,
That's
we
insane.
just kept grinding.
Well, I really like a good 0 to hero rags to riches story, but I kind of want to get into the Elemental Shaman stuff now that we're past the little pug discussion.
Yep.
We're going to dabble into that a little bit more because we could talk about that forever. But let's do our first shaman question, which is what makes shaman and Elemental Shaman specifically strong in Mythic Plus and pushing keys?
Should I go first, or you want to go first?
Yeah, you go first. Obviously,
Sure.
you have the most experience with that right now, with how high you're pushing with your team.
Well,
so we'll let you start off with that.
let me begin. So first of all, off the bat, the strongest utility out you have is going to be 12 seconds interrupt. That's something that is incredibly strong, and most of the people don't realize that you can solo pretty much every trash you want with 12 seconds interrupt. It has a 30 yard, it's not a melee kick, it's a 30 yard range kick. and it's so powerful that most of the people don't realize. Second of all, you have slow, you have stun, you have Earth Elemental, which can be pressure off the tank sometimes.
But also used as a defensive, another defensive.
Yes, you have a double wound. That true. You have also a lust, which is gonna be, instead of the 25% haste on a drum, it's gonna be 30 because of your lust.
Yeah.
You also have a Ankh, which sometimes can make or break the game. If you don't have any CRs and you want to dead skip, Ankh would be your friend. So it's very, very powerful in the very powerful in the tools of the guy that can use it.
It's just too bad we can't be night elves, man. It's too bad.
Sure. I mean, that's like the only downside. You also have you also have an insane healing with the ancestral guidance.
Oh, it's nuts, dude. You can out heal the damn healer.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
in some
something
pulls.
that most of the people don't understand. Like, having AG helping you healer is just insane.
Yeah.
Like, I have bursts myself like 30 to 35k HPS on fights. Like, I mean, I usually burst like a monkey. I burst a lot of DPS, right?
And I bursted 60k healing before with triple
definitely.
Sword pack in a Tal'Dazar.
Yeah, for sure. You can definitely do that. It's just insanely strong when it comes down to like pure raw healing with the AG provided every 2 minutes.
You mentioned this before. I'm sorry to cut you off there, but I don't want to forget about this. The 12-second kick, it does have a slightly shorter lockout time as opposed to other melee kicks. So it's a 2-second lockout as opposed to like a 3 or 4 that melee kicks have for spells.
4, yeah.
But to make up for that, there are very specific mobs in dungeons that you can completely lock out, like the Iron-Tide Thug in Tol Dagor, the the Vine Twister in Waycrest Manor that stuns on the magic cast, and actually the last mobs in Shrine of the Storm, the mobs on the final boss, you can actually solo kick every single one of those drain spells from those mobs in the void phase. You can solo kick those. It's like 0.2 seconds before the cast goes off where you have to kick, and then it locks it out for 2 seconds, and then it starts casting again. But you can solo kick it, but a lot of people don't do it because it's really, really tight. Not a lot of people knew that you could solo kick that as a shaman. But yeah, I mean, like, you can solo very specific mobs in dungeons with that kick, and it's absolutely ridiculous how strong that is. Even on resto shamans, like, the kick is absolutely nuts. One of our strongest utilities, I'd say.
Also, let's just recap. 12 seconds interrupt, lust, stun, slow, off heal, Ankh, Earth Elemental, Earthquake knockdown. That's something that
it's insane.
Don't remember. Earthquake knockdown can interrupt any cast in the game, and it also, the only downside is like you need to track DR of the mobs.
Yeah.
If you don't have a weak aura that tracks DR.
Well, it's not DR. It doesn't go on the diminishing returns. It can knock down even if it's full DR'd. That's the thing. That's the strong thing about Earthquake.
It does go on DR for other people if they want to stun your target, and it goes on DR.
I don't think so. I've had mobs knocked down even if they were full stun DR'd.
But other people cannot stun those mobs if you... Pretty sure Earthquake does DR the mobs.
It doesn't DR. I'm 100% sure it does not DR for stuns, interrupts, silences, anything like that. It's a knockdown. It doesn't even work similar to the High Mountain Tauren Bull Rush. The Bull Rush does a DR for some reason, even though it's a knockdown, but Earthquake does not DR any CC.
Okay. Well, maybe on that. But I was like sure that it was DR. Alright, anyway.
On top of that, we have the AoE slow in Earthbind Totem, which can become pretty useful, even though it's not the best slow in the game. It's still very, very useful as like a set it, forget it, like you can help out. You have the knockback, which in some cases can be very, very clutch, but others can be it's kind of like a feast or famine ability. You can fuck things up really, really bad with it because of how far things are shot, or you can really help your group by getting that quick knockback for Sanguine, or helping the tank kite, or knocking for instance, a Tide emissary out of the pack so that you can immediately drop Capacitor Totem and stun everything as it's out of range. Like, you can do a lot of really great things with it, but it's definitely cucked me several times. Specifically on the last boss of Tal'Dazar, where I knock a bunch of ads into the boss and then we almost wipe. So.
And one last thing I need to add is going to be Unlimited Purge. And Hex, which is going to be your primarily CC on any mob, card control on any mob.
Yep.
The Hex is actually really good
It's
card
strong.
control on a mob
It's very
because
strong.
it doesn't break if you damage the mob. So you
Mhm.
need to do a certain amount of damage to break that. Probably
It's
around
it's
30
like
to
root.
45.
It's like root, but it silences them.
Yeah, it's definitely strong. We have a lot of utilities, and that's something that most of the people don't realize. And it's just incredibly strong when it comes down to like even pure DPS. Like pure DPS, we're so strong. I just played with Chile and a couple of cases with him. Like my shaman was like outperforming his lock, and I also played with a one friend of mine that he's incredibly strong mage main. He's like one of the top guilds in the world, and he's parsing like 99 to 200 in several bosses. And I think I had like 50 million on top of him. And like mages and locks, they don't provide much utility to the party
Yeah.
outside the usual stuff. While we provide so much utility that we just make up for that, even if you do less damage.
I will say
But
though,
we do
like mages
obviously.
have to spec specifically into certain utility to become like utility powerhouses, like Ring of Frost or actually that's the only one that I can think of off the top of my head. Dragon
Yeah,
Breath, I guess, is another one. Dragon Breath is just like it's good in very niche situations, but you're not relying on it to carry the team. It's not kind of like that kind of utility where it's
yeah.
an outlier. Ring of Frost can
But
be very, very powerful though.
I think we talk about a lot about being having advantages when it comes to shaman, but like, what do you think are the main disadvantages when you play that class, in your opinion?
So for me, I feel like it's pulling around Storm Elemental.
Yeah,
Right now, you figured this out a little while ago, which was the Storm Elemental, Blood of the Enemy, a certain amount of crit, haste, and versatility. Kind of like the go-to build now for pushing high
yeah,
keys as Elemental. Like, that is the burst. We're kind of like, you kind of got to pull around us similar to a Fire Mage now. But the
yeah,
thing is, like, if you if your tank does not communicate with you or pull around your strengths, you're going to be kind of left behind in what you can do for the group.
yeah,
I think Ellie Shaman, it's not as affected negatively like a Fire Mage would if you don't pull around their cooldowns, because they still have like 5 target really good cleave, right? 3 target
yep,
cleave is a little bit lacking as opposed to other classes. But if you don't pull around cooldowns, you're not as bad off as a fire mage. But if you do pull around cooldowns, it's like an insane amount of difference. We do the highest burst AOE for casters, like
yeah.
in the game, right?
Hands down. Yeah,
Hands down the highest burst AOE. Several
yeah,
clips of yours you've been able to produce, which is just insane numbers. I've seen 600k out of you, but that's just
yeah,
Padco in some
yeah. It's
situations.
just putting, pure putting.
It's still impressive numbers, that's for sure. But to get back to what our weaknesses are, like outside of our cooldowns, we do average damage at best. But that's what casters are, right? Like,
I would disagree with you. I don't think that's our like. I think the main disadvantage of shaman first of all is gonna be that you're ranged, it not melee. In BFA, melees have just higher output when it comes down to like pure damage. Um, a second thing I could say is we are team dependent. So you will not get your full potential if you don't play with a pre-made team. Having a tank and a healer, the strong correlation between them two is gonna be the most important because when your tank starts to kite, the thing is like any effects can be damageable for you. Give an example, sanguine. If there's sanguine, your tank has to kite away from the earthquakes. If there's necrotic, he has to kite away from your earthquakes. If there's explosive, he's gonna prioritize explosives, and you're just gonna lose damage there. Bolstering, you need to manage bolstering stacks. So sometimes you don't have to earthquake. Sometimes you have to
yeah.
use earthshock. Um,
I think in some
bursting,
situations though, bolstering Ellie Shamans actually do really, really good priority damage if you're spec'd correctly.
yeah.
And that could actually be an outlier as opposed to like, okay, if it's bolstering weak, which caster is kind of like one of the best for that
On
fix?
bolstering week, I would probably pick. If Hunter is not. I'll probably pick Hunter, Shaman, or Boomkin on a bolstering week. I don't like mages on bolstering week, although they have very high overall, strong bursting. I feel like mages shine only on tyrannical weeks. On 45, they're kind of okay, but On tyrannical weeks, mages and boomies can outperform us for
Yeah.
sure.
But as it stands now, like pushing tyrannical is not as
Yeah,
good as pushing fortified, where
it's
elemental
gonna it's
just
gonna be the same thing in 8.3. The scaling for tyrannical is just insanely high, and most of the bosses they have a one shot mechanics, which are like the literal aids of this game.
Mhm.
If you remember back in Legion, when it was tyrannical week, nobody used to push, right?
Yeah.
We all of you pushed on fortified, and it's the um same thing for BFA right now.
It's just the scaling's out of control with tyrannical, and no class has enough defensives mechanics like to deal with first boss of freehold. You get shot, you're dead on a 24.
Tyrannical,
Tyrannical,
yeah.
yeah. You get shot,
If
you're
you
dead. You're dead.
if you don't
There's
use
no way you can
defensive,
predict that unless you run
if
a
you
full range group. Like
not really. I mean, you can if you're really fast. You have like 0.5% to react. You can cloak. You can just the DH. You can. I mean, pretty much when your standard group is gonna be rogue DH and a caster, or like rogue DH and somebody else, right? So the DH has many immunities: meta immunity, netherwalk, blur, darkness, unused strength of versatility. You also have external from your druid like iron bark. If you play warrior, you have a shout for that. As a rogue, you can vanish, cloak. You can use evasion. Sorry, not evasion. Feint. So you have to do those tools to like.
you do
It doesn't
have
matter how
that.
high the kid is,
You'd also
but
have to go with a stamina flask, stamina food as a rogue. Like you don't have a lot of
that's
health.
no rogue is not necessary. As a DH, maybe, but the thing is, it's not
I've
gonna be
only
that.
seen that on rogues though. I've only seen rogues having to use health
Maybe
consumables.
because they're not good enough. But good
I don't
rogues
know, man. NA
will
rogues. Man.
will never use that. Trust me. Good rogues will never. The DH, I agree with that. They sometimes they have to use it for stamina foot and stamina flask, but a good rogue should never use anything like this. Pure DPS and that's it. If you're good with a game, you can get away from any shot. You can also outrange, grappling hook out, wait for the shot, go in a game with sprint. It's easy. You get your grappling hook every pretty much 15-20 seconds because you have a combo points rolling all the time, refreshing you, diminishing your cooldown by like 5 to 6 seconds, depending if you have Vigor or deeper stratagem.
It's just such a high risk situation that putting yourself in that situation just to try and push, it's very, very difficult.
I mean,
The time window for
yeah,
specifically speaking about tyrannical here, of course you can push 24 freehold fortified relatively easy in comparison to tyrannical, especially Eudora, right?
yeah.
Um,
Oh, that's
it's
just
just like when we're talking about scaling, it's Legion all over again. Those one shot mechanics are coming up,
yeah,
and it's like
yeah,
classes don't have enough tools to deal with that all of the time. And
yeah.
if you do, you have to be on the ball, like 0.5 second, like you said, reaction
Yeah.
speeds have to be like boom, 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 right? You have to
And
play to the best of your
not
abilities.
not many people can do that. Like
No,
it's very easy to do it like once or twice. But what is hard is consistency. Consistency of the hard work is the hardest thing. Like doing this over and over again. That's what separates the best from the average or like good people.
totally.
Like consistency of a good work, good playstyle, and no mistakes whatsoever. Like if you want to push high keys, 24, 25, 26, no mistakes whatsoever. It's something you want to aim for. Obviously, your DPS will matter a lot. Everything combined will make or break the key. Like skills, overalls, playing together as a team, and most importantly, consistency of good work.
Yep.
Not doing many mistakes. Because one mistake on 25 is over. If you miss one interrupt, even one interrupt, it's over. If you ninja pull one pack, it's over. Just go again. So one mistake can break the key on 25. While on 15 on 20, you can wipe 5 times and you can just still time the key.
Yep. Kind of getting back to what we first started with, which was the negative side of playing shaman. Obviously, it's the range, right? If the tank has to kite out of your earthquake, you lose a lot of damage. Um, what's another point of a negative side of playing elemental shaman specifically in Mythic? You are kind of like to get the biggest bang for your buck because you're not melee and you're not like the you just start and you pop off, right? There's a little bit of build up as you're arranged, but also you're kind of reliant on your the build of your team, right?
Yep.
Obviously, having the monk tank is exceptional for your earthquake damage, and then having the DH in there, as it's already meta, buffs your damage exceptionally, especially with Storm Elemental, right?
Yep.
So, like, is there any other points we want to kind of hop
I
on
think
before
that's
we go
I
move
think
over to
that's
the
the most
next one?
important. I think that's the most important right now. Also, just one thing to mention about benefits. Um, you benefit from DH and Monk at the same time
Yeah.
because your spells are also from physical and magical.
And we're the
So
only
right
caster that
now,
does that. We're the
yes,
only
that's the
range
only
that does
cast that
that.
does that. True. And also, right now the meta is the standard meta is gonna be Brewmaster Monk, Rogue, DH, Restless Druid, and the fifth DPS can be anything from a from a Elemental Shaman to like Mage, Boomy, or like Shadow Priest.
Shadow Priest, yeah.
You
Could
can
even be
play
another
Monk and
rogue.
a DH at the same time as a caster.
Oh man, I think I just disconnected for a sec. Are we still here?
Yep.
Test? Test?
Yep. I can hear
Okay.
you.
Okay. All right. So, how is Shaman performing? Since we're talking about like other ranged anyway, how is Shaman performing versus other ranged classes specifically? Specifically,
I've
range,
seen.
not melee, because we already know
Yep.
range is already at a disadvantage. We've already
Yep.
talked about that a little bit. Let's talk about other range, specifically Hunter, Mage, Boomkin, Shadow
So,
Priest.
from my perspective, I have played with many good people. I've played with pretty much. I play 8 to 10 hours per day every day. And from my experience and from my knowledge throughout the whole seasons, and that's been like 1 year, I can tell you, Shaman cannot be beaten when it comes down to like pure DPS and utility all combined together. I've seen people do a tier list with the range for Mythic Plus. Like there's several people that did that. I strongly disagree, and I think Shaman is by far the strongest range pick right now in the current meta. The strongest by far. A second one, I would say, is gonna be Hunter. Hunter provides insane amount of overall. It does also have a utility, a
Yeah,
lot of utilities such as like purge and the purging effect and
the
rage.
Soothe. They have the
Uh,
Soothe and
Soothe,
Rage.
exactly. You have a stun. You have also immobilize for like 5 seconds. You have a third to immunities. You have a second wall as well. You do also have a pet taunt. That's really important. The only reason why Hunter is not all together with the shaman is because Hunter has a pet, and now we know that in BFA pet glitches are everywhere
Yeah,
from shroud skips to like void skips to like give an example could be said about siege. If you know siege, last boss, the platforms, the pet of the hunter bugs out.
yeah.
It's so annoying, and it's just incredibly exhausting to see that over and over again. I have hunter myself, and I've played one key with that, and I had enough of that. I just didn't want to play the hunter again. It's
One
just
note
so
about
incredible.
Hunter though is that you can play Marksman. Like
Yes.
Marksman is an alternative. You can play Lone Wolf, not have that issue, right? But
Yeah.
Marksman is definitely a very rare sight. I've played with one Marksman, and that was Nico Yazawa.
I would say marksman is inferior to BM right now. BM is much stronger. So I'm gonna put LA, BM, and then I would actually like to play. I mean, it does depend on a week and on affixes. In general, Boomy has a lot more. Like Boomy and Mage are kind of on the same page altogether with Shadow Priest. Like those are on the same line.
Yeah,
I would say there's no like a one, two, three, four, five. It's just like these three casters together on the same line is somewhere where I will put them if I have to make a list.
but
They're
based
definitely
off
good
of
to
which
play.
caster, your tank has to pull very specifically. Like Shadow Priest, you want to be consistently like chain
Yes.
pulling, right? With Fire
Yes.
Mage, you pull around Combust. With
Yes.
Boomkin, like they have that crazy priority damage lacking in the AoE department. So it's like they're really, really good
Yep.
on tyrannical weeks. They're really, really good on
Yep.
necrotic weeks because of the
Yep.
Trents, right? But
Hmm.
it's like outside of those kind of niches, they fall behind the other casters.
But something very important to mention in 8.3, many of those classes are getting nerfed. Give an example
True.
of this could be said
True.
Shadow Priest getting nerfed. Oh,
Yep.
incredible AoE nerf. Sorry, second target nerf and slightly AoE. Boomies are getting nerfed. They're getting their AoEs cut down even more.
Well, I think it's
Um,
getting changed in more into their Azerite, isn't it?
Not really. They don't really run high noon, or do they? I'm not too sure about Boomies though, but I'm pretty sure they don't. They not. I think they only have one trade of high noon, or if they don't. I mean, I'm not too sure. That don't quote me. I'm not totally sure. I don't have Boomy myself in BFA, but from what I've seen, their Azerite, sorry, their AoE is getting nerfed, by 11%. Don't quote me on that as well. I don't remember. That's on top of my head. And also,
It's their
there's a frost.
Sunfire and Moonfire damage is getting nerfed.
Yeah, there's also a Frost Mage buff on Icelands, which
Yes,
could make Frost viable and could potentially top up with a Fire right now, because Fire right now is superior. Like, Fire is much better than Frost in every case.
I'm surprised
Um,
Fire actually hasn't received any nerfs because their scaling is kind of going to be out of control with the new raid.
I think Fire right now is in a good spot. They have insane second target, insane AoE. They just have no utility to back up. They have nothing. And visibility, arcane intellect is not enough to catch up. Ice block
I
is just
wouldn't
not
say they
enough.
have nothing. Like we talked about how Ring of Frost is powerful. They have Ice Nova for kiting. They have invisibility, which in some cases can be strong. They have Ice Block for some utility purposes. They do have Sheep, but Sheep is inferior to Hex. Um, they can spec into Ring of Frost for kiting, and like they do have utility. I wouldn't necessarily say that they have nothing because we're gonna get some rages in the comments, but
I mean,
they
sure,
have less than Elemental Shaman comparatively. They have less
sure.
overall. They
Like, no
have better
bias
priority damage than Eli Shaman based off of
for
cooldown
sure.
uses alone. So I will
Yeah.
say that, right? But
But on the other,
overall, yes, I agree. They
yeah,
are
exactly. But
superior
on the
to.
other hand, Vision is getting buffed next year
Yes.
by, I think, 12%, 11%. What was it? I'm not sure.
12%.
I think 12%.
Yeah.
And that could potentially open the door for Boomy, because Boomies do play Vision in Mythic Plus and Iris sometimes. In raids, also they play either Condensed Life Force or Vision as well. So that could potentially catch up with the slight nerf they received for their AoE. It could potentially do that, but again, that's gonna be most of a RNG fiesta if that's gonna happen. They
And
get
if
the
we're
Incarnate
talking
proc.
about the visions buff, I actually have a speculation as well for Eli Shaman because a little while ago, actually, Vision of Perfection was a really good build for Eli Shaman on the PTR back when you could combine it with Echo of the Elementals traits as well. And you can
Yeah.
still play Storm Elemental. So your Storm Ele is going to be on a 2-minute cooldown. As well, you're going to be getting those Storm Elemental procs, but you're not going to have Blood of the Enemy, which is what your burst potential is all about.
Yeah.
But you have Echo of the Elementals, which in dungeons, if you run 2 of those traits, that's 12% of your overall damage. Back
Yeah.
when this was after the Visions nerf, right? So
Yep.
this was after the Visions nerf and its interaction with Echo of the Elementals, because it used to give you a full duration Spark or Ember Elemental, even if you got a proc of Visions of Perfection that summoned a like 10-second Storm or Fire Elemental, you got a full 30-second duration Spark or Ember Elemental. They
Yep.
fixed that, so it no longer does that interaction, but with this Vision of Perfection's buff by 12%, you're going to be getting more of those procs over the course of the dungeon. So on tyrannical weeks, we actually may be running, and this is just speculation because of the buff, we may be running that build,
I
which
think
could put us on par with Boomkins if they are just out of control for time.
the only reason why I dislike running Vision is because it doesn't give you control over those procs, right? So you could get them at any time, and it could potentially be useless if, given example, let's say the trash is about to die, you get a proc, what you gonna do? Like, pretty much nothing. Sure, it can do some damage, but that's about it. I don't really like Vision. I don't like Vision. I've never run Vision only once. It's so bad. I would never recommend to somebody to use that.
Right, but you could say the same thing for Boomkin. You could get a proc at the end of a pull and then it does nothing. But for Elemental, because you're running those Echo of the Elementals traits, even if that proc is wasted, you have a Spark or Fire or Ember Elemental that follows you around, does not get in combat with anything if you're in Shroud. It doesn't have a as strong negative as a bad proc for Boomkin for Elemental Shaman.
First of all, you probably never run Echo of the Elements Mythic Plus. Second of all, I
No,
don't think
Echo the
Boomies.
Elementals if we run Visions.
Oh, okay, okay, sure. Also, Boomies don't have anything else to pick outside that. Like, they don't have anything better, right? But we have Blood and Iris, which are far better than that, in my opinion.
I was thinking more for Tyrannical weeks.
Oh, the thing is, like, Tyrannical Weeks wouldn't matter that much, because if you want to push the highest keys in the world, you don't push on Tyrannical Weeks anyway. But if you just talk about the average player that running, say, 15 or 18 or 17 keys, sure, it could potentially,
It's just something
um,
different. And I think
yeah,
that different builds for casual players is
Yeah.
important to kind of
Yeah.
emphasize on, right? When you had in Legion with Elemental Shaman, you had 3 or 4 different builds that you could play that were all kind of like viable to switch
Yeah.
and play together, right? And that was what was so great about Ele Shaman back then. It wasn't like the best class, but it was super fun to play, and you can play different styles, right?
Yeah.
I feel like having that back in the fold for Ele Shaman in BFA would be kind of fun. That's kind of like what I was talking about. I'm not saying that's going to be the meta,
Oh,
like Visions of
yeah.
Perfection is going to be the meta. I'm saying like it's going to be like a viable pick for people that are doing like 15, 16, 17s, right?
Yeah. Could be the
If they
case.
want to play it, they totally can. Like that's an option for them,
Yeah.
or it could be
Sure.
an option, rather.
True.
So we talked about the negative sides for Shaman and Mythic Plus. How is Shaman performing against other ranged and not melee classes? We already talked about that. How does, since we're talking about patch 8.3, how does the future hold up for this spec? What do you think? We haven't received any changes thus far, and it can only get
think
better from here.
so. During the past week, I have been theory crafting a lot in PTR. I don't want to share everything what I collected so far, but I'm just gonna tell you that like shamans do scale incredibly with gear and critical strike, incredibly strong.
And with the
So
corrupted
in
gear coming out with that
with the
increased
corrupted
crit
gear,
damage, oh my
yeah,
god, dude.
it's gonna be like we benefit the most out of critical damage increase. That being said, Torrent is gonna be inferior. Is gonna be superior to any other races that you wanna play
And I'm
Shaman
glad
on.
I switched.
Torrent and Dwarf are gonna be insanely strong.
Yeah.
Anything that can give you a critical strike increase, not damage. Sorry, not just pure critical strike. I'm talking about critical strike damage increase. Any item that's going to give you that is going to be superior because you're not only having this, but you're having, I think, a talent code. So it's not a talent, it's like a baseline. Any critical you do, instead of critting
250.
200%, you hit 250%. So
Yeah,
that also
Elemental Fury.
scales with that. Exact Elemental Fury. So Elemental Fury also scales with that. So it's like a quadra triple scale. Like you get the item, you get a bronze from your torrent or your dwarf. You get the general spell. Elemental Fury is just so insanely broken, and it's gonna be again. I think the meta is gonna remain the same. It's gonna be rogue, a DH, and a caster, or double rogue and auto melee. That's gonna be the
Yeah.
meta in my opinion. Shaman is gonna receive no buffs and no nerfs, and therefore it's gonna be in a very good state because many range are getting nerfed right now, and we're gonna be in a state where okay, we actually gonna be insanely strong just because of that, right?
But that also may
Um,
cause us to become too strong. Like
if it's too
we may get a
yes,
balancing patch halfway through the tier
yep,
where
yep,
our lava burst damage just gets cut, right? Because that's going to be the
yep.
outlier. Lava burst damage is going to be out of control. It's going to
I
be
would
way
say
too high.
I would say if they nerf Ignatius potential, Shadow Priest, sorry, Elemental Shaman might be in a very bad spot.
Yeah,
In a
because that's
very,
what's
very bad
carrying
spot.
us, honestly. Like
Yeah,
we have to run 3 because
yeah.
there's
Or
no
two.
other
Yeah.
primary trait that we want. It just increases our damage way too much. It's very unhealthy. It's a very bad trait, honestly. Design wise, it's terrible. It's terrible for the class. It's going to be like uh, the Legion situation where after our artifact weapons were gone,
You have to
it's
understand
all of our damages too.
yeah, the more damage, the higher the stats are. Let's say now we're gonna be 450 equipped. Next year you're gonna be 480. The higher you go with item level, the more damage you're gonna do, and the more big numbers you're gonna see just because of Elemental Fury and Torrent, the Brawn passive of
Yeah.
Torrent, the 4% critical corruption increase. It's just you're gonna do a lot more damage, and it's gonna make us broken as yeah. Um, and one thing I want to say, Shaman is incredibly easy to play. Anybody can play it. Even like if you are new to range classes, that's something to begin with. Shaman or a mage are one of the easiest range class to play, and it's super entertaining. You can also be as Shaman. You can be a melee, you can be a resto, and you can be as ranged.
Battle
It's a
Shaman,
versatile class.
a battle
Yeah,
healer. You do
it's
so much
insanely
damage
good.
as Resto Shamans. It's in like
Yep.
it started at the beginning of each expansion. Resto Shaman has done more damage than Elemental for the last 3 expansions. At the beginning of
Yep.
each expansion, but then they I mean like Elemental just scales. But aside from that, I think I want to talk a little bit about corrupted gear with what is on the PTR. Since we're looking for 8.3, I have some stuff up as far as the weapons go. You know, the corrupted weapons.
Yep.
So we have two weapons that I want to look at, which is Vorz's Zak'al, which is the intellect mace, and then also um, the intellect axe, Markawa the mind piercer. So we'll start with the axe because it's just straight passive intellect buff. Are you familiar with these weapons already?
Yep.
Okay.
I think the axe was it can proc randomly from 1% intellect to 7% intellect. Correct me if I'm wrong. If I
Eight.
remember.
1 to 8.
1 to 8. Okay. And in my opinion, that's going to be the strongest caster weapon ever created because not many casters can proc, let's say, back-to-back intellect procs with their weapon, and only a shaman can wear that axe. Only a shaman
Yep.
and a paladin. Nobody
Shaman or
else.
paladin. So it's we are already at a huge advantage just by being able to use this weapon. Imagine having an 8% intellect buff as soon as you cast Storm Elemental and just pop off with your burst.
Yep, that's gonna be insanely strong.
I honestly think with the scaling, we may be tipping towards 1 million burst.
Oh, for sure. I guarantee you next year I'm gonna make at least 1.5 billion burst.
1.5 million burst. I mean, you're already hitting the 600Ks. So, and that's not even with the insane crit gear that we're getting, right?
My highest so far is 730k burst, and I'm 447 equipped. I'm not 455. I don't have Ashara stuff.
Hey, you have more gear than me. You have higher gear than I think.
Have more sockets than you.
Yeah, you have more sockets. You just play more.
Yeah, true.
So we have this. It's kind of just like it's a weapon that has no downsides because if you get a proc, you're still getting increase of intellect. And it only time that it changes is if it overrides itself. That proc is permanent, right?
Yep.
And I wonder if it's going to stay on you before the dungeon starts. Because it's a permanent buff, it doesn't have a cooldown, right? So you can proc it on a turnip training dummy.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it's going to stay through the countdown, through the start of it, because we have resources that stay, some cooldowns stay, like the Metamorphosis, the Incarnation for Balance Druids. This weapon could also do the same thing.
Yep. I mean, at this point, you can only guess, right?
Yeah.
Up until the point where you actually test it yourself, then you can say, oh, well, that's actually, it is a thing, right? Because, for example, many of you don't know, but you can actually pre-stack the stacks of blood of the enemy before putting the key in. So you can have naturally 30 stacks of crit, and then when you put the key in, you're gonna have a passive 300 crit on top of that, right?
Yeah.
So you can make insane amount of burst just because of this. But many
I actually
people
didn't
don't know
that the blood of the enemy stack stayed. I didn't know that.
I usually stack between 25 and 30, then I put the key in, then I burst like a monkey 500,000 all the time.
That's where it comes from, huh? The start of Freehold. No, the start of Freehold where you hit like 600k. Was that one of your tricks?
No, actually, I didn't do it this way because I learned it later on the patch.
Oh, okay.
But now I know it. Now I burst more because I know that. But many of you don't know that. If you guys pre-stack your blood of the enemy to 30 stacks, it will remain after you put the key in. So Wakeless Manor, Underoath, Freehold, Atao can be useful. Motherlord, pretty much any key. King's Rest. Oh, King's Rest, not much, but still get me, right? It's a passive, it will never run out, and it's going to be useful for pretty much every key that you're going to run with blood. So something to keep in mind of. Pull some trash, get some pre-master, get some pre-stacks rolling, put the key in, bam. You surprise people, and they're like, many people that have never played with me are like, well, what the hell is that burst? I never knew that. And people when they think about meta, they never think about range. They think about double rogue and a monk, double rogue and a warrior.
All they have to go off of is MDI.
Yeah, like MDI and pushing keys is completely two different stories.
100% completely different.
I competed myself in MDI, and I can tell you, like, those worlds are completely different. Like, playing keys, pushing keys, and playing MDI are on a different spectrum. Sure, the skill level will vary, and it also might be combined, but people that push high keys are gonna be like, people playing MDI will probably might never come close to pushing high keys again, because it's just a different skill set. Like, we tried it ourselves, and I can tell you, like, MDI requires you fast movement, fast pace, knowledge, and it's just explosiveness and team synergy. In
Yep.
high keys, it's about everything is about knowledge and time. Time dedication is the most important. Like having the time to push on a good weeks, the practice, like because it's not about speed, it's about not dying, executing things
Yeah.
correctly. Because in MDI, sure, you can pull one run out of 20 runs and you can make it like about 15 minutes, but then what if you fail every second key? And
Yeah.
on high keys, you don't have a second chance. You have only one shot. One shot, one key, and that's it. If you miss it, you miss it. You
Yeah.
can't do anything. You can't just restart the key and just go, okay, let's go 25 again, right?
Yeah. And
So you need to play.
with like MDI, you have to do certain pulls very, very particularly. Like
Yeah.
every piece of that pull, every GCD of everybody in that group has to be perfect sometimes. And it's
Yep.
like that room for mistake doesn't move over to pushing keys in the same way.
I would say if you do a mistake in like this kind of lower keys, you can recover. But if you do a
Yes.
mistake on a high keys, it's key over.
Yeah.
I'm not saying MDI is easier than the pushing live keys like top tier keys, but what I'm trying to say is that two different worlds. We tried both of them. And MDI and pushing live keys is a completely different story. Like 25 keys versus 17 keys, like a huge gap, right?
Mm-hmm.
But but then again, I have mad respect for people I usually play with that won BlizzCon now and the group like and then Method NA as well, and everybody that participated. I have a huge admire to people like this because they put time and effort toward getting better at the game. And I myself was part of them, even though we lost. I think we lost the semi-final, lower bracket semi-final to a team, actually NA team, no girls allowed. It was an NA team that knocked us out of the stages.
Yeah, I know
But
the people that play on that team. They're really fun.
yeah, so yep, definitely.
Going back to the corrupted weapon though, because there's one more weapon that I want to talk about. Surprisingly, there is no caster staff.
Yep, I was also surprised.
They only have one-handed weapons.
That's actually good. Do you know why?
Why?
Because like a sword, dagger, wand, and an offhand is better than stuff because you have two sockets rather than just one.
True. You can get the opportunity to get double sockets. Speaking of sockets, there's actually an item in 8.3 where you can permanently add a socket on any item.
Yeah, that's like a double-edged sword.
It is a double-edged sword because it's like once you put that on there, like the value of that item, millions of gold. Millions of gold. It's ridiculous.
Yep.
Right? And you save those.
And
you have to save those until you get an item that is not replaceable.
Yep, exactly. Yep, you're very right, my friend.
To go back to the corrupted weapon though, the last one that I want to talk about is Vor's Yakul. This is a one-handed mace, haste versatility, high verse. Gain Void Ritual when you equip this, giving your spells and abilities a chance to increase all secondary stats by 10 every second for 20 seconds. This chance is increased if at least 2 nearby allies also have Void Ritual. I don't like this kind of weapon. I don't like this kind of ability or equip. It reminds me of the Sliver Trinket. It's terrible gameplay. It is terrible gameplay.
It's just normal, like
it's stacking
so bad.
Stacking the same piece of gear just for the damage increase in raids is it's not a good mechanic to have in your raid. You don't have to be near them, which is great, but it's like I don't want to use this just because 2 other people are using it. I would rather use my good axe that is fantastic.
Sure, but even in Mythic Plus, right? How many times are you gonna see double caster as a group? Probably never.
How many times are you gonna see a caster that has a mace? No.
True.
Only priests and shamans and paladins can wear maces.
And potentially your healer could wear that, right? So it's like 2 people.
Oh,
but
yeah,
still,
Druids.
It's not enough. Yeah, it's still not enough to catch up with the axe. Axe is just superior. It's
way too strong. And I'm very glad that is on the axe because it's so unique to shamans and paladins. It's so unique to shamans and paladins. That power from that ability, I think, is just way too strong. It tips the scales to us a little bit too much, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
As far as like comparisons though, like they have the wand for other casters, so crit, mastery, your spells and abilities have a chance to show you the inevitable truth, increasing the rate your cooldowns recover by 20% for 12 seconds. This is actually pretty good for Boomkins, Fire Mages, and Shadow Priests. But how often is this going to proc? What is the kind of
Yeah, we need to see
inner
the
cooldown?
proc per minute ppm. Yeah,
Because
proc per
that could
minute.
be more powerful overall than the axe itself.
Potentially could be. If you just don't know the proc rate.
Yeah.
Just, it's the same with the lure. Lure in the beginning was very shit trinket, but they buffed it, the proc chance, and the damage as well, and now it's the best trinket for Mythic Plus and rating on Tyrannical Weeks. Lure. That's the trinket from like Blackwater Behemoth.
Yeah.
It's just it used to be shit. They buffed it. Now it's good.
Yeah.
So you never know. Maybe they're gonna buff it mid patch. Maybe they're gonna like. There's 2 more months before 8.3, so there's still time. If you remember, like a month ago, they had some rings that increased the damage by 2% if you wear that ring. Now they have no rings, right?
Yeah.
So it's just about having a. I mean, it's just about like following the patch notes, following the news, what's the new, what's is going to be in, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
So we have to see, wait and see. 2 more months,
Yep. 2 more
even
grueling months.
even less. 7 weeks though. 7 weeks. I think the patch will come around 10th of January ish, maybe a bit earlier, maybe a bit later, and then the mythic rate is going to be opening at the end of January 2020. That's my prediction.
Hmm.
I have no data whatsoever. I have no secret stuff. It's just my calculations that I usually do, and most of the times they turn out to be right. So
Okay.
that's my opinion. In my opinion, it's gonna be um, 6.5 weeks from now. Mark my words. I don't know what date is today. 6.5 weeks from now is gonna be the first. Is gonna be 8.3 release, and then the mythic is gonna be opening in 3 weeks afterwards.
Yeah.
So I would say end of January is gonna be my pick. But then again, I could be wrong. It's just my calculations.
Yeah. And with the patch, we get a new dungeon, the Operation Mechagon, right? Upper and lower, kind of like Karazhan. Um, how familiar are you with the dungeon itself, as supposed as like specifically like mobs' abilities? How effective do you think shamans are going to be specifically in Mechagon?
This dungeon is very million friendly, very million friendly.
I
There's
agree.
a lot of one shot mechanics that I usually found myself through experiencing them. In general, it's gonna be a good dungeon. The only thing I will dislike about is gonna be again one shot mechanics. Very high tyrannical keys. I don't remember the name of the dual boss. That they have to be killed together.
Oh,
Uh,
the scrapyard.
Yep. They just insanely strong. The slimy boss, is just insanely strong. I'm just afraid of one shot mechanics. That's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah, if they don't
And
get the scaling properly, it's going to be a
yeah,
much bigger
it's gonna be
problem than
disaster.
King's Rest. It's going to be way bigger problem
Definitely.
than King's Rest. So
Yep.
cross your
Trixie. Yep.
fingers. Hopefully, yeah, Trixie and stuff. So why don't we open up chat questions? Did you have
Sure.
any in the chat already that you wanted to answer specifically that you
I
already
had
haven't done?
Sure. I have my questions, and also sorry, I had the chat questions. I can just answer them right now. If you have anything on your chat, you can just go ahead first, and then I'll wait afterwards.
No,
I have you just a few.
you have a few. Why don't you go on your side? I'm
Yep.
looking through my chat right now.
Sure. So one
Give me
thing that
one
is being
second. Give me 1 second. Somebody's here. Yeah.
sure. Boys, if you want to ask any questions, now is the time to ask because we're just about to end the podcast. So if you have any questions, if you want to know about that, feel free to pop in, say something in the chat, and I'll answer it. We're gonna answer it as best as we can do.
All right, I'm back.
Okay, I missed the start. Who are you talking to? I'm talking to Brack. That's the NA Shaman. Used to be. I believe in Legion you were like pretty popular when it comes down to
I just released a
pure.
lot of content. That
Yeah.
was what was going on in Legion.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, you are a official WoW head writer for a Shaman guide. Is that correct?
Yes, so I did write the Mythic Plus, Advanced Mythic Plus guide for Elemental Shaman. You guys can check it out.
Yep.
It's in the Elemental Shaman section of Wowhead, but you actually have to go into Mythic Plus, and then it's under the Advanced section of Mythic Plus. So if you guys
Yep.
want to check it
So
out there, you can. I'll leave that
yep.
guide itself in the linked comments, or the link in the description of this video, so you guys can check that there.
Sure. So just one of the questions I had is Sure. So, how would the vision proc benefit us in a way that it could potentially make other classes outperform us in a pure overall damage? My take on that is going to be the only class that benefits from vision right now is going to be a lock and a boomy in Mythic Plus. Correct me if I'm wrong, but no longer, but no other than those two classes as a ranged use that vision as a tool to outperform you, right? So it's only boomies and a Destro. I think Destro and Demolog use vision, and then
Hmm.
Affliction uses Iris. If I'm not mistaken, I play Lock myself, and I just know happen to know. But I think those changes, the 12% would not be enough to outtake our spot in a like as a top tier range class, in my opinion. What do you
Well,
think
when it
about it?
comes to lock, for sure, like they just don't bring enough utility. I think to keys that are just make them an outlier. Like even if their damage was really really good or like on par with us, you still wouldn't bring a lock over a mage, beast, balanced druid, LA shaman.
For sure, I think the lack of interrupt of
Yeah,
the
the interrupt
Demolog
alone is
is
insane.
just
You don't
insanely
bring
strong.
any like displacement of pressure for your tank or healer in the form of constant CC. Like they have an AoE stun, that's good, right? They have
Yeah.
actually two AoE stuns if you count Infernal if you're Destro,
Yep.
but they just don't have like a trees, a Ring of Frost, Earth Elemental, constant slows, CCs. The interrupt is the biggest thing though.
Yep.
They have to run a
So
specific pet, which pet class already at a disadvantage, ranged at a disadvantage. You have to run a specific build, which completely scuffs your damage because you have to run a pet that doesn't have the most optimal damage, and then you're already just to get that interrupt on you. Like it's they're at such a bad disadvantage for keys that it's
but
unfortunate.
then again, there's a very few people that can play high mythic plus as a lock, and that one of it I could say is one of my friends, Sheletiven. He is currently the best lock in the world when it comes down to pure mythic plus, and I just played with him a couple of hours ago, and he's on the same page as I am. Like he doesn't think that lock is enough. Like the lock as a class is just enough to outperform any like shaman, for example. So that's he's on the same page as we are. One more question we have. Um, what do you guys think of the permanent debuffs from the corruption gear? Seems to me it's super hard to find mates for Mythic Plus because we now need to check their debuffs too. I mean, obviously, the more you complicate the system, the more it's gonna be puck unfriendly. But then again, season 4, new fix,
Yep.
much easier for pucks.
Yep. Way
Season three
easier.
is season 3 is really hard when it comes down to pugging. Like especially void weeks, tight weeks, it's very hard to play together as a team in a puck because in a puck most of the times you lack communication. You don't have the voice comms, for example, Discord, TeamSpeak, or like in-game
Yeah.
voice comms, and that puts you in disadvantage directly because you don't have the communication. Um, well, in for example, Legion was just about go in a key, blast some deeps. Doesn't matter what you pull, just pull like 30 mobs, must grip together, bam bam, and that's it. You
Yeah, and
know,
I was
in,
gonna
in, in
comment that Legion was way easier for pugs to
Yep,
actually like do keys, right?
yep.
Because
Now it's way harder.
it's way harder because you have to communicate interrupts. Interrupts is one of the biggest outliers for lack of
Yep.
communication and what is going to affect your key. Because mobs themselves do so much damage in keys now because they have such important abilities that you have to control that it ruins it for pugs. You have to have in Underrot, for example, a really good rogue if you want to actually do anything just to control maggots and blood swarmers in some situations, right?
I would say there's many classes that can do that. It's not specifically
Rogues
a
are the
rogue, but
best
usually
for that specifically.
for maggots and death speakers, sure, rogues are the
And that
best.
is just an example.
But yeah. Last question. Storm Elemental still best down for high keys next patch? We don't know yet. We don't know yet. I cannot answer this myself. So I don't know yet. I'm not sure if Barak knows as well. So if you
Without
know that,
changes, without like known changes to our class, it looks good. That's all that we can say though. Like it just
yeah.
based based off of
Beef.
just math alone and scaling, it would likely be a really good option, but until we actually have further testing, it's hard to effectively say 100%, oh yeah, this is going to be it, right?
True. Um, when you think about acquiring gear, without Titan Forge, we won't get item level. close to raiding. True, very true. So Mythic Plus players basically have to raid to be competitive. I
Yeah.
absolutely agree with you. There's not enough rewards for Mythic Plus when if the so they're gonna make like a raiding mandatory because the good Azurites dropping from the last three bosses. So they will make raiding mandatory for everybody, and that's kind of something I don't like. Like personally, I like to play Mythic Plus, maybe a bit of a PvP, but raiding is not my thing. I like the only thing that keeps me sane when it comes down to like pure raiding is the progress. The preparation for the progress is something I like grinding neck, for example, grinding the best gear for raid, making splits raids just for gear, and then the actual progress. But after this, it's so boring. I just don't want to go to raid ever, and I have to
Yeah.
go just because of gear, and that's something I don't, just personally don't like to. They're limiting my choice. How can I fund my gear? It's not
Yep.
Mythic Plus anymore. It's not Titan Forges. It's just about raiding right now, and that's something I dislike myself. And that's why I made a gift myself with the people I like to play with, and we're gonna try our best to perform next year. See how it goes.
It's such a bad situation that there's NA guilds and I'm sure EU guilds that only do the first four bosses specifically to get gear for Mythic Plus on
Yeah,
Mythic difficulty. And it's like,
I mean,
give us more options in Mythic Plus so that if someone just wants to play Mythic Plus, they can perform just as well as somebody that is coming from here.
if you just want to play PvP, for example, you can gear in PvP so much easier. You have Azrael from PvP. You also have a when you're up in a high rating, you also have a baseline load higher than 430 for sure.
Yep.
It's just in general better to gear up from PvP at this point, and I just don't know how that's going to reflect in Mythic Plus. It's just um, something I'm actually curious about to see, and it's I don't know. We're gonna see how it's gonna go though. Anyway,
You had mentioned, though, I just want to do one more comment because you mentioned
sure,
PvP. Some classes actually have to push high rated PvP in order to get best in slot gear for Mythic Plus. Demon
true,
Hunters for one, because of trinkets and some Azurite gear, and Shamans to get our best in slot shoulders, because the shoulders are the only piece in the game that has Igneous Potential, which is our best single target trait, Tectonic Thunder, which is our best AoE trait, Spirit Visage, which is, or sorry, Vampiric Speed, which is a really good healing like utility, and Overwhelming Power, which is the best secondary trait in the game for pretty much all classes. It's very unfair that PvP is the only way to get that combination of essence or traits on your Azurite gear. That's a terrible
true.
design. It should not have happened. I don't know. No
Yeah,
further comments
yeah,
on that though.
sure. Next question: Elemental Shaman with Vision next patch will be strong. I would say the only reason why it would never be strong, in my opinion, personal take, Canex, is going to be just because you don't have control on that vision procs. While with blood, you do have control. You can save up your cooldowns and combine them together with blood and Stormkeeper and Storm Elemental, and just in general, it's much better to play blood right now. The only time vision can outperform blood is on mathematical data. Like if you sim it, for example, you're gonna see that vision will outperform blood. But in a case where you play actually real keys, you will always have downtime. If you have downtime, for example, you have to wait 5 seconds because the like, tank need, like a healer needs mana. The rogue has to do skip. Tank died, he has to rest. The downtime kills your vision. Like vision will never be stronger than blood, in my opinion. Never, unless it's super broken. But then sure, it could be.
I think
But
it might
my
be
take
strong
would
for
be
rating.
for rating, sure. I mean, we're just talking about Mythic Plus right now, right? So a rating could be another topic. Sure, it could be the case for rating or for PvP, but specifically for Mythic Plus, I don't think that's going to be the case ever, unless it's super broken. And in this case, it's not super broken, so I don't think it's going to be the case. But then again, I could be wrong. My
Yeah.
personal advice, my personal take on it, I'm a human as well. I do mistakes based on my data, based on the PTR, based on everything I've done so far. It is not stronger. It will never be stronger unless, as I said again, buffed to obliviation.
I have a question here as well. Will it be even more difficult to gear Ellie Shaman next season? Learned we will have to farm the Mythic Raid to get the piece. I mean, we talked about this a little bit about Mythic and how it's gearing, but the best piece is to farm a lot for Corrupted gear. I feel like Corrupted gear is going to have way too big of an influence over your damage for Mythic Plus. This is a kind of an issue. Like, we're getting away from the essence grind a little bit with how those nerfs are happening, but it's like with the power scaling of Corrupted gear alone, you still have to raid next tier in order to be competitive in Mythic Plus.
I think that's going to be the case for pretty much every class, no,
Yeah.
not just shaman. Like every class has to raid just to get a good amount of gear, corruption items, and so on. But the other thing I want to mention is when you mention grinding, your neck will not have a cap right now. You don't have a neck cap anymore.
Yeah.
So you get a 75 on a 75 item level. Sorry, neck level. You're getting a third minor. On a I think 80, you get a what do you get an 80?
It's a corrupted, like
It's
you
a
get,
corruption
it's like a corruption cleansing kind of
cleansing
thing.
for like a exactly for like
I think it's specific for the actual like Nazoth encounters, the visions of
sure.
Nazoth. Like when you go in there, like the power of your neck past level 80 influences how far you can go in those
Sure.
like little
But
visions places.
having a one corruption, like for example, having a one corruption digit reduced by your overall corruption will just play a big role. Like let's say you get the one on 80, then you grind 81, 82, 83. Every level is going to be one corruption. That's going to be insanely strong because you can actually decrease your corruption level, therefore put more corruption items, therefore become stronger. So this will create one tricks. People playing only one class
Yeah,
and
alts are going
stacking
to
the
be harder for that.
yeah, putting all the eggs in one basket, right? So you're gonna make people actually be one tricks and just spam islands and spam word quests. Sure, from a business standpoint, you want to make people play the game more, but then at the same time, if you do that, you're gonna limit the players to play one class and make it in general stronger than the rest, and therefore you just forget about their ults. So you just take the power away from there and put it in one basket. It's kind of for me is really bad that there's no cap on the neck. Same with Legion, like there was no cap in artifact power. You can just blast the grind and so on.
Now, Petko, if I am correct though, I do believe that I may be wrong on this, but I do believe that any power after the final trait, which is the corrupted thing, specifically only helps the visions of Nazoth encounters.
Okay.
I don't like, it's a very bad system, bad design. If any further neck power reduces your corruption, because that is the endless grind. That's what we had in Legion.
Sure.
That's what we had in the beginning of BFA. Like it was really really
Sure.
bad. Nobody liked it.
Sure.
Blizzard
Yep.
understands that community doesn't want to go there anymore. So
Yep.
if it is like that now, where the neck level doesn't have a cap and it directly influences your corruption levels to reduce them, I think that will get nerfed.
Yeah, I hope so. I don't like the endless grind.
It's a bad
Anyway,
system.
to go to the next question, there's a few more questions I need to answer, and then that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Is Tectonic Thunder worth in Mythic Plus in 45 weeks? Definitely yes. Having one Tectonic Thunder will just bump your DPS by a significant amount
Oh, it's
of.
insane.
Yeah, it's really good. I'll really like it.
It doesn't track, like you can't think of just the tectonic thunder initial damage to track. It's the
True.
initial procs that you're getting for your chain lightnings, the additional maelstrom generation that you're getting that equivalates to extra earthquakes, hands down. Like that's just it. You're getting so much out of this one trait, but it influences more than just the initial proc that you're getting out of the damage, the initial hit that happens when you drop an earthquake.
Yep.
You're getting so much more out of that trait.
Um, Follow-up question: what do you think would be a solution for gear acquisition? Do you in high-end circles have discussed these issues? What is the common concept regarding this issue? When it comes down to to gear acquisitions, I don't think should be limited to only one source, and that's rating right now.
Yeah.
I think should be definitely given opportunity to people, for example, to gear from Mythic Plus or PvP and rating, and pretty much that's it, right? So three sources, better than one. Um,
PvP vendors.
Yep, could be the case. Like you could think about that. It's just very bad to limit people and force people to do something they don't like to do. Like, for example, if you don't like to eat cheese, and I tell you you should eat this cheese for dinner, nothing else you should eat, only the cheese. Then they're gonna say, "Oh, go, go fuck off, with that cheese." Right?
I'm lactose intolerant. I
Yeah,
can't.
yeah. Give an example of that. Like some people dislike raiding, sure. So give them a chance to play PvP, get gear from that, or like Mythic Plus, get gear from this, right? Like something I spoke about earlier, reward high mythic plus. Like, what is the difference between running 25 and 15? Pretty much nothing.
Yeah,
10k,
nothing.
10k residium. Sure, not a
It's
big deal.
literally just bragging rights. That's
It's
all it
gonna be
is.
it's gonna be refreshed anyway in season 4, like the residium. Write your score. Who cares? It's a third-party website. It's not like actual Blizzard. If you don't have the add-on, it's pretty much pointless, right?
They are
Obviously,
adding mounts
everybody has it.
though.
It's just something that has to be rewarded. Like we need rewards for High Mythic Plus. Like if somebody that pushes like a top edge keys, like rank one keys, world first keys, breaking the metas like 25, 26 keys, there should be a solution for that. Should be a reward for this. Like sure, mount next season for every plus 15s. Probably not something that will stimulate High Mythic Plus players, but something as a equip, something like an item could be the case. Like for example, having the baseline item increase from, let's say, instead of 430 to drop 440. Perfect,
Yeah.
but
Anything past like a 20,
yeah,
it
because
increases
in
the.
PvP, if you pass 2.4k rating, you get higher gear. Sorry, higher like item level items
Doesn't it go
from
to
each win.
445?
I'm not sure. I think 440 is the cap. I could be wrong with this. I think it's 440. You have a chance after every arena win to get a 440 item. I
I,
don't. I'm not like 100% sure on that, but I think that's the case.
to be fair, I will like that system alone, very very important to implement something like that if you want to take, especially like Mythic Plus as a competitive scene, right? PvP arenas has been a competitive scene in Blizzard's pocket for several years since Burning Crusade, right? That's been a competitive thing that you do, and you can get rewards out of it since the Burning Crusade. However, Mythic Plus is a brand new system as of Legion, so it's like these reward systems that are coming out of it, it's not going to happen right away.
Yeah,
It probably
sure,
won't even happen in Shadowlands. If I'm being brutally honest, like that gearing system, that reward system is probably not going to happen for quite a while until
sure,
Blizzard finally understands that
sure.
this is a competitive scene that people are interested in, that want the systems to be in place. They just don't think it's worth their time right now to implement. Maybe they don't think that, but it should be there. Is
And
the
the last
argument?
questions, and the last question, just to close up the discussion. We talked about Azrael gear. We only can obtain by doing PvP, which is with trinkets from raid, or our dungeon trinkets viable enough. I think when it comes down to like pure trinket wise, at the moment there's no dungeon trinket that can outperform a raiding trinkets. Like no other. Sure, in season one, what used to be Ignition's potential, conch. Now it's the case of having lure, having a sharp amount of power, having a Nautilus aqua something blah blah was the
Yeah,
case.
you had it right the first time.
Shiver Venom. Those four trinkets are incredibly strong for Mythic Plus and PvP. Nothing can outperform this. In raiding, however, in next raid, you have two incredibly strong trinkets for casters. Incredibly strong. The one from the last boss, I don't remember. I don't remember the names though. I don't remember the names, but I'm pretty sure the last one is like a book that can give you a crit and verse at the same time, which is really strong for you. Like you benefit the most. Like you benefit the most from crit, and verse itself is just a flat increase of your DPS. Like there's no cap on verse. You can stack it as much as you want, so it's a flat DPS increase.
Yep.
The second trinket is like a on proc usage of pretty much like a spread AoE. Pretty much like I'm just thinking about in current tier something that can do that. For example, the trinket from the Temple of Cetralis for millis, the lighting pot. The, the
Yeah.
the the one that you just attack people and then just lighting. It's pretty much it's gonna be the same trinket but from raid, and it's gonna be probably like 4% of your overall,
Yeah.
5% of your overall, 3%. It's just incredibly strong again. So you need to raid. You need to be forced yourself to raid. That's something I said. It's really bad. Yeah, it's really bad to limit people to force them to raid if they don't want to raid. So for casuals, you guys are gonna you're gonna be forced to do mythic raiding to enhance your power when it comes down to just like pure gameplay.
Many
So
people
if you're
don't even
casual
have
and you
that option.
play, yeah, exactly. If you play like let's say twice per week and you don't have any trinkets on raid, they're gonna make you do that. If not, then it will not get accepted in like plus 10, and stuff like this. Could be the case. But then again, it comes with the same argument of having your friends playing together. They want to put people together, 20 people, and so on. It's just in general, um, kind of something that I personally uh, I don't like. I don't like.
That's
That's
the
my take
case
on that.
though. You mentioned Aquapotent Nautilus. It does an absurd amount of damage right now. If you game it correctly with like racing flags from the Cloud Serpent Order in Mists of Pandaria, you can put a flag out, right? And then you use the trinket on the flag. You're positioned directly on top of the mobs or a place where the wave from the Aquapotent Nautilus goes through the mob pack for a second dot over to the flag, comes back. That dot has already fallen off now. It's got a full duration dot. The wave hits the ads again, does another full 4 second duration dot. And it's doing 7, 8, 9% of your overall damage in the entire dungeon. On specific weeks, fortified, teaming, right? If you're using it correctly, that's an absurd amount of damage for a trinket.
Yep.
And all because you're using specific mechanics in the game to game that trinket to get that out of it. That shouldn't be an option. If you want Mythic Plus gear to be equivalent or competitive with rating gear, there needs to be either a change to dial down rating trinkets or a buff in Mythic Plus trinkets up.
Yep, definitely.
So yeah, we talked a lot about 8.3, what compares to, or what Ele Shaman compares to other classes. If you guys are interested in the video itself, Petko is going to be uploading his version on his YouTube channel, so definitely check that out. Comments on everything that we talked about, maybe some timestamps as well to kind of like go back and forth with what we talked about. And I'm going to be putting my version on my YouTube channel. So if you missed anything, go and check out our content on our YouTubes. Is your YouTube channel still your name on Twitch?
Yep, it's the same as my Twitch. I think pretty much everybody knows for now.
Okay.
So there's X, and yours should be a Barokoshama, correct?
Yes, Barokoshama on YouTube. So definitely go and check that out if you guys missed any of our stuff. But yeah, thank you so much, Petko, for sitting down with me today and having this awesome discussion. We had some really good questions from chat, and this is definitely more to come in the future. So we'll be having more of these discussions come like the following months, next patch. We'll have more people on the stream as well. Yeah, stay tuned for more to come for podcasts for the.
Definitely, it's gonna be a lot more things to come for next year, and also we gonna maybe next time bring a special guest, maybe somebody who understands Mythic more or PvP more, somebody that has different viewpoints, and in general, we're gonna try to bring more people towards that. But we will see how it's gonna go.
Yeah, maybe I'm actually excited for next year.
Yeah, maybe we start rolling people from rogues to a shaman. Who knows?
Yeah,
you know, world can change.
Change the meta. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Thank you for having me today, and I'll see you around, Brack. Thank you very much.
Have a good one. See you, dude.
You too, man. See you.